he also, in good news, just put his enemies list out there. It's in his book, Government Gangsters. His vision for reforming the FBI, I guess, is just being angry at people who worked for Barack Obama and Republicans who are mean to Trump.
Not a bad place to start.
Liberal Fox News commentator Jessica Tarlov tried to sound the alarm about Donald Trump's unhinged new FBI director and how he desperately wants to prosecute Donald Trump's political opponents and has quite literally come up with a named list of targets. Unfortunately, her co-hosts, including Jesse Waters, seem to celebrate the idea, which is really worrisome, and Trump hasn't even been inaugurated yet. But before we unpack all that, if you end up liking this video and you want to support the channel, please be sure to hit the like, subscribe, and alert bells before you go. All right, friends, it's been a minute since we talked about Jessica Tarlov, the lone voice of sanity on the Fox Propaganda Network. But before we get to the clip, I just want to remind people that Jessica is also co-host of The Raging Moderates with Professor Scott Galloway. You can find video episodes of Raging Moderates, including one in which they recently interviewed Jon Favreau of Pod Save America, on Professor Galloway's channel. I recommended that they get their own channel. Hopefully they will, specifically for this content. But you can go to the professor's channel and find the Raging Moderates playlist. And you can also, if you like podcasts, if you can click the link in a community post that I provided, you can actually subscribe to their podcast as well in the audio form. I recommend you do that because Jessica's good at what she does. And damn it, she needs to be rewarded as much as possible for her hard work. So, speaking of her hard work, as I've said before, she has the toughest job in legacy media. She has to be the lone liberal voice of sanity, despite the fact that she's outnumbered 4-1. And Donald Trump just won the damn election, so I imagine how difficult it was before, it's even more so. And I'm going to play some clips, but again, I want you to note that Jesse Waters in particular is just full-on mask off. They love the notion of Donald Trump targeting his political opponents. So we're going to play these clips and unpack them together.
Sure. Bill Barr, who I know some people on the Republican side, or I guess the MAGA side, think of as squishy, now said that he would be the deputy director of the FBI over his dead body. Just want to make sure I get that correct. He is an avid children's book author. The Plot Against the King. Hillary's the villain. Okay. Send that for the holidays. Cleo could use it. He has a clothing line. He hawks anti-vax diet supplements. And he nearly botched a 2020 hostage rescue, a 27-year-old American who was being held in Nigeria. He fabricated the fact that the government over there knew about it. Mark Esper has spoken about this. But otherwise, I think he's totally qualified.
But they got the hostages out, right?
After. Do you think it's okay to
They got
lie?
it out, right?
I see
yeah,
how
so the
we're
hostage was rescued. So it wasn't really botched. What do you...
Oh my God. See, this is what I mean. So a couple of things. Number one, Dana Perino, who's supposed to be one of the saner conservatives on the Five, says, yeah, Kash Patel, Donald Trump's future FBI, writing creepy, sycophantic books in which Donald Trump is anointed a king and Hillary Clinton is some sort of evil queen, glorifying Trump. Yeah, those are really good books. Dana, please, for the love of God, tell me that you are not, buying those for family members. Just imagine how Dana Perino and other Fox News hosts would react if there were a liberal or progressive version of that, talking about Queen AOC or King Bernie or whoever the hell that they think is the liberal or progressive equivalent of Trump. They would be outraged. They would say this is creepy propaganda. But when Kash Patel, the potential future FBI director, does it, it's so good. They're so unprincipled. They're so hypocritical. And then for Jesse Waters to say, well, listen, Kash Patel, with his incompetence and dishonesty, sure, he nearly screwed up a hostage rescue, but the fact that it succeeded in spite of his incompetence, that's not a mark against him. I mean, do these people hear themselves? Imagine, again, if the shoe were on the other foot. Imagine with all of these successful, prisoner exchanges and hostage negotiations under the Biden administration, if there was a near screw up because of Vice President Kamala Harris or just anybody. Imagine how these people would have reacted if you said, well, it ultimately succeeded anyway, so who cares? They would say, no, it doesn't matter. The fact of the matter is that their incompetence jeopardized the operation. Even if the operation succeeded in spite of them, you can't give them credit. But because it's Trump, because it's Kash Patel, because it's the MAGA movement, no, you got to grade them on a curve. Here's where it gets really creepy, though, as Jessica continues to make her case against Kash Patel. getting into the more authoritarian stuff, Jesse Waters' response here is utterly chilling.
It all went down. Jessica, how do you see Kash Patel?
The good news is he is not being accused of having sex with a minor. So the bar, we're up here, so that's good. He also, in good news, just put his enemies list out there. It's in his book, Government Gangsters. His vision for reforming the FBI, I guess, is just being angry at people who worked for Barack Obama and Republicans who are mean to Trump.
Not a bad place to start. It all went down. Jessica, how do you see?
Let's hear that again.
And Republicans who are mean to Trump.
Not,
I guess, is just being angry at people who worked for Barack Obama and Republicans who are mean to Trump.
Not a bad place to start.
Folks, this is unhinged. This is absolutely unhinged. Being angry at the people who worked for Obama and Republicans who are mean to Trump. And what they're talking about is, again, this list that Kash Patel created. He published it in a book. It's alphabetized. These are the people that he's angry about. Tim Miller of The Bulwark discusses this. It's hard for me to find the list of people Kash Patel included in his book, Government Gangsters, as deep state officials who need to be targeted. So here it is in one piece. It goes into details. Of course, it's hard to see here, but you have Bill Barr, you have Stephen Boyd, you have President Biden, James Baker, you have Eric Holder, President Obama's former Attorney General, Hillary Clinton, President Obama's former Secretary of State and former presidential nominee, Robert Hur, who investigated President Biden for mishandling of classified documents and wrote a very damaging report about him, Dennis McDonough, who is not only a former chief of staff to President Obama, but the former secretary of, or current secretary, I think he's former, Secretary of Veteran Affairs under President Biden. And so he's coming up with a list of people that he specifically wants to target. That's what she's talking about. And Jesse Waters is cool with that. Catherine Rampell, CNN host and economic reporter, says, pardon my naivete, but what are their alleged crimes exactly? Well, Catherine's being funny here. She's being sarcastic because there are no alleged crimes. As you know, because we've discussed this in previous videos, Kash Patel is on the record talking to Steve Bannon on the MAGA War Room podcast that he says, we'll come after you criminally or civilly. It doesn't matter. We'll figure it out. But we are coming after you if you helped rig the election for President Biden. We're going to go after you if you're in the media. Well, given that the election wasn't rigged, it sure seems like he's going to go after anybody that Trump deems a critic or an enemy or an obstacle in some way, which is not supposed to be the purview and remit of the Federal Bureau of Investigation. But to Kash Patel it is. And that is precisely why Donald Trump put him in that position. But again, the chillingness. Jesse Waters doesn't care about any of that. Sounds like a good start. They love it. The sycophancy, the vengefulness, the retribution, it's the whole point. It's not a bug. It's a feature of this nominee. And you have mainstream Fox News hosts sanitizing and laundering it and celebrating it. That's how disturbing it is. So Tommy Vitor, Pod Save America, points this out as well. This is important context for understanding Kash Patel. He doesn't have an actual vision for reforming the FBI or cutting down the size of the intelligence community. He has a random enemies list that's basically just Obama staff and Republicans who were mean to Trump. And again, that's precisely what Jessica Tarlov said. The FBI is being angry at people who worked for Obama and Republicans who are mean to Trump. She's talking about this list. And her colleagues do not care. Jessica Tarlov herself could be on the damn list. Think about it. She is one of the most effective, prominent critics of Donald Trump in a right-wing media ecosystem. Trump has specifically called Tarlov out by name. He's ranted about her on Truth Social. She's very good at what she does. She pisses the conservatives off. She pisses MAGA off. It's not outside the realm of possibility that she could be audited repeatedly under the Trump administration. She could be investigated by Trump's FBI. Why not? And the fact that this doesn't even occur to her colleagues is just so profoundly disrespectful because presumably they personally like her, even if they despise everything she stands for. The indifference and the hypocrisy are staggering. Last thing I want to point out is this article from the Rolling Stone. Why Kash Patel may be Trump's scariest pick yet. Okay? As he fills out his incoming administration, Trump's nominees have ranged from absolutely unqualified to ideological nightmares, but he might have just made his scariest hire yet. On Saturday night, Trump announced he selected Kash Patel to lead the FBI. Patel is one of Trump's most loyal enforcers and a conspiracy theorist, a 2020 election denier who wants to purge the so-called deep state. He recently publicly pledged to investigate and prosecute Trump's enemies in the media and government. For years, Trump had personally promised that he would appoint Patel to a very senior role in the new administration, should he win. Patel is a hyper-MAGA, vengeance-minded Trump loyalist to the point that even some Trump advisors recognize him as an extreme liability, even if those aides and confidants aren't willing to do much to get in Patel's way, mostly due to Trump's protection. For instance, during the 2024 campaign, Patel announced to Trump's enemies in the press and elsewhere, quote, "We will go out and find the conspirators, not just in the government, but in the media." Some Trump campaign officials who quietly worried that independent voters would chafe as some of Trump's more authoritarian-sounding outbursts, saw Patel's public comments as, in the words of one Trump advisor, quote, "an undisciplined parody of what we're doing." Now that supposed parody is just the law enforcement reality of the country if Trump gets his way. Here's what we know about Patel. Patel is devoutly loyal to Trump. His reputation as a Trump loyalist stems not just from his overt devotion to the president-elect, but his explicit willingness to do anything, rule of law and consequences be damned, to please his commander-in-chief. In August, one Trump advisor told The Atlantic that the president-elect understands, quote, "Kash is the one you say to, hey, I'm not telling you to go break into the DNC, but," reference to Watergate under President Nixon, the second most corrupt president in American history right after Donald Trump. While Patel has yet to orchestrate a break-in at the DNC on Trump's behalf, he's been involved in some sketchy antics that raise the hackles of some of the incoming president's loyal sycophants. Lowlights include allegedly misleading Pentagon officials about having secured approval for a SEAL Team 6 to enter Nigerian territory in order to conduct a hostage rescue, a deception that, according to defense officials involved in the operation, nearly resulted in an international debacle. That's what Jessica Tarlov was talking about. It's that kind of unilateral gumption that makes Patel's critics wary of just how far he'll go to prove his value to Trump. Patel was a fierce critic of the Justice Department's investigation into Russian interference in the 2016 election. Goes into examples of that. This year, Patel called for the security clearances of government officials involved in the Russia investigation to have their clearances permanently suspended. Patel is hellbent on dismantling the so-called deep state. Quote, "I'd shut down the FBI Hoover building on day one and reopen it next day as a museum of the deep state." Patel recently told right-wing commentator Steve Bannon that he has the bench prepared to carry out prosecutions against Trump's enemies. The one thing that we learned in the Trump administration the first go-around is we got to put in all American patriots top to bottom, and we got them for law enforcement. We got them for intel collection. We got them for offensive operations. We got them for the Department of Defense, the CIA, everywhere, Patel told Steve Bannon in December of last year. Patel has promised to punish Trump's enemies, including members of the press. He's made clear that one of his priorities should he be granted any crumb of political power, will be to act as an attack dog for Trump's retribution agenda. Patel told former Trump advisor Steve Bannon that we will go out and find the conspirators, not just in government, but in the media. Yes, we're going to come after the people in the media who lied about elections, who helped Joe Biden rig presidential elections. We're going to come after you. Whether it's criminally or civilly, we'll figure that out. But yeah, we're putting you all on notice. And Steve, this is why they hate us. This is why we're tyrannical. This is why we're dictators. Again, we've talked about this, and it goes on like this, folks. This article is incredibly sobering. And this is why Jessica Tarlov said what she said. And again, I just keep going back to the fact that her warnings seemingly have no credibility with her friends and colleagues is a sobering omen for what is to come. And some of the warnings that many of us may have with our loved ones who are Trump supporters, who may be totally unaware or indifferent or skeptical that these things could come to pass, but they could. And that is precisely why it was too dangerous to make Donald Trump president of the United States, but we did it anyway. And it's a very real possibility that this Senate confirmed position will be confirmed regardless, because I still don't think it's a good idea to bet on Senate Republicans to have the backbone to buck Trump, or at least buck him repeatedly. And so Patel might slip through the cracks here, to say nothing of the fact that Trump could, I suppose, make him acting FBI director or put him in a different position to put him in a position of extraordinary power. It's very scary stuff. So good on Jessica Tarlov for trying to break through to her Fox colleagues and her Fox viewers, and only time will tell if they eventually take it seriously. But in the meantime, let me know what you think in the comments.